Good morning, good afternoon, good evening guys, wherever you are in the world. This is CGTV Parlay, the channel where we talk topical issues, betting insights and analysis from the NFL, NBA and more. This is episode 2, let's roll the intro. This episode I want to take a look at some of the lines from this weekend's slate of NFL games and highlight any figures that look slightly unusual. The first place we're headed is Kansas City for a Week 2 rematch. The Chiefs won that in overtime 23-20 and the lines look similarly modelled to that performance. The over-under started at 45 but now sits at 44. KC opened as 3-point underdogs but they now sit plus 3.5, giving us an expected score of 23.75 to 20.25, around 24-20 to the Chargers. For the Chiefs to go into Week 17 as underdogs with a 14-1 record seems almost surreal, but I think a combination of the Chiefs' inability to blow out teams, the fact that Mahomes isn't starting, and the Chargers' kind of consistent involvement in these close competitive games gives us a better indication of why this is the case. If we look kind of purely at offensive figures, the Chiefs have scored less than 20 points once, and that was last week against Atlanta. A lot of the guys, in addition to Mahomes, are expected to either sit or have rotational involvement today, namely Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and maybe some linemen. If I was Andy Reid, I probably wouldn't be sitting any defensive guys because that's an area of the Chiefs game that has caused some issues this season, kind of giving opposition teams a shout in many of their games. Despite these kind of personnel rotations, the Chiefs are obviously still going out to try and win the game, and they're going up against a 24th ranked defense in the Chargers. I'm sure they're going to find some gaps to exploit. On the Chargers side of the ball, Justin Herbert has had arguably the best quarterback rookie season of all time. He's thrown a record number of touchdowns and appears to have the confidence and poise of a third or fourth year vet. It would have been great to see Gunslinger against Gunslinger again this game, but unfortunately I think it'll be the Chargers side that see the most air yards. I've got the Chargers scoring more than 24 points, as they have done 27 times this season. The Chargers season is done, but I genuinely think Anthony Lynn is a coach on the hot seat that most people aren't talking about yet. The picture looked far bleaker 3 weeks ago when they were 3-9, but I don't know how many hearts he's won over after wins against Atlanta, Las Vegas and Denver. I've got the over on this one, Chargers to win 30-24. We move on to First Energy Stadium where the Browns are hosting the Steelers. A must-win game for the Browns up against a Steelers team that are resting a host of key players after locking up the AFC North last week against the Colts. The spread on this game has understandingly turned in favour of the Browns. It opened at -4 and now sits at -9. I'd attribute most of this to the Steelers slowly releasing information of which men will be sitting out on Sunday. So far we've heard that Maurkice Pouncey, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward and Big Ben aren't going to suit up. I think the line has overly reacted to this news. I don't assign these 4 guys to a 5-point spread shift. I know there are key defensive men missing, but the majority of the first team is still playing. The secondary still has some big names starting. Minka, Cam Sutton, Steven Nelson are still playing, and these guys have been great the entire season. The guys that will be filling in for those resting also have first team reps because Ola Adeniyi and Marcus Allen have both taken snaps filling in for Bud Dupree after he tore his ACL. Big Ben isn't playing, but all the wide receivers are still there. You'd expect to see some rotation, but the receivers still have kinks to iron out, namely the huge number of drop catches, so I don't see Coach Tomlin giving them a rest, given that they've been slightly subpar this whole season. Mason Rudolph isn't Big Ben, but I think the receivers he has and how strong this defense is will make this game competitive. I'm going against the spread on this one. I think Cleveland will come out to play and they will take the game, but I think the market's overvalued them slightly for this game. I've got the Browns winning 25-21. We head next to San Francisco, where Seattle are due to land on Saturday night ahead of the evening game against the 49ers. The over-under sits at 46, whilst the spread has the 49ers as 7-point underdogs, giving us an expected score of 26.5 to 19.5, roughly 27-20. The 49ers had a great outing last week. They beat the Cardinals 20-12. frequently forced Kyler Murray out of the pocket, sacked him 3 times, and shut down the run game bar Murray, with Kenyon Drake posting a stat line of 18 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. CJ Beathard's throw showed that he's capable of holding down the fort whilst Jimmy Garoppolo continues to recover from injury, throwing 182 yards and 3 TDs. He was also aided last week and will be this week by the return of George Kittle, who went back to his usual ways, catching 4 passes for 92 yards. And if that isn't enough, Kyle Shanahan has proved this season more than any that his run game isn't dependent on who the running back is, as he managed to get 183 yards out of Jeff Wilson, with Raheem Mostert still out. I'm expecting similar things from the 49ers, and I think they're good for at least 20 points here, especially as they're playing a defense far worse than Arizona's. On the other side, I think Russell Wilson needs a performance here to send this team into the playoffs with some serious confidence. They've won their last 3 games, the last 2 coming against serious opposition in Washington Football Team and the Rams. And they'll want to take this momentum into the playoffs. I think in particular they'll be looking to an extent to re-establish the Russ-Metcalf partnership that was tearing up defenses at the start of the season. DK's still been the leading receiver in each of the last 5 games, but his last 4 performances read 80, 61, 43 and 59 yards respectively. With the run game finally finding its feet with the return of Chris Carson, I think the Seahawks take this, and by a comfortable margin. I'm taking the over on this, with the Seahawks winning 30-22. Those are the lines that really jumped off the page at me when I read them. Now it's just down to sitting back, fingers crossed, and watching the games on Sunday. Depending on where you're listening to this, you might want to check out our other content. You can find us on YouTube, where we do a lot of video analysis, on Medium, where we've got a bunch of interesting articles, or on Twitter, where we frequently post graphs from recent games. Until next time, have a good one.